All right, we're live. Fantastic. So, welcome, greetings to all those who are watching live and all those who might watch this on the replay. We want to share with you guys today something that happened last night. So, last night we held our monthly new moon Akashic Record Reading. And in this Akashic Record Reading, well, basically, let me just share with you a little backstory, right? So the backstory is the Akashic Record readings that we facilitate. We've been facilitating them since, I believe, 2005. We took the training. It was a year-long training. It was a very specific way of reading the Akashic Records for a very specific purpose. And the purpose of these Akashic Record readings is to heal and clear the heart chakra of traumas that it has experienced in this lifetime or past lifetimes that have caused it to close its heart. And in the closing of the heart, what happens is a belief system is created. And a little soul fragment piece of the self sort of gets stuck in this little time loop. This is my explanation of what I'm experiencing. This is not the whole truth, but a little metaphor per se. So this little tiny soul fragment gets stuck in this time loop of that experience because it hasn't processed it, and it's not able to move forward because it hasn't processed it. And so what happens is that little soul fragment calls the experience back into our lives in a different way, in a different form, in the hopes that eventually our soul, on the larger soul, will become evolved enough to be able to process that original wounding and release it. So it keeps bringing the experience back into our life for the purpose of healing, for the purpose of seeing it, healing it, and choosing a different path in this lifetime. So when we get together for a personal Akashic Record reading, what we generally do is we talk for like 15 minutes or so and discover what sort of patterns are happening in your life and what is sort of the most present thing that we're looking to shift. And then we call in the Akashic Record reader, or we call in the Akashic Record keepers and the family of light to assist us in understanding what the story was, understanding what the theme was, understanding what the learning was. And then so there's 3 parts to the session. There's the story part, and then there's the healing part. So we take that soul fragment and the heart, and we move it through a forgiveness process. We move it through a healing process, and we bring it back into the oneness of our heart, back into the oneness of our greater self. Now, once that's complete, we go through an agreement breaking process. And that is all about breaking the vows, breaking the contracts, breaking the agreements and the belief systems that were created during that original experience. And what happens is, as long as that little soul fragment is there, as long as that unprocessed or unhealed wound is still within the heart, creating the heart closure, what happens is the perceptions and the beliefs that our soul created at that time is sort of over our eyes, over our perceptions of our present life. We sort of look through the experience of our past and we see the past again, even though the past may not be, the present may not be mirroring the past to us, right? But we're seeing it and we're making beliefs. We're choosing decisions and behaviors based upon a past experience rather than the present moment and the present reality. And so once we clear it, once we shift it, we're able then to be present with life in the present moment without the past influencing our behavior, our beliefs, what we're seeing, what we're perceiving, what we're saying. And without that past trauma sort of recreating the same thing over and over again. So that's what a personal session is like in a nutshell. The group healings, which is what we did last night. The reason I'm sharing this with you is the reading itself was so far out there that I had a lot of difficulty sharing it. I went through so much resistance in actually communicating what that story was. And I'm going to tell you about the story because it's fun and fascinating. But so that when we get together in these monthly groups, what we're doing is we're coming together as representatives of humanity. The star seeds, the walk-ins, the light workers, the energy healers, the medicine people, the shaman, the shamanica. We come together in these groups and we hold the common intention that what we are healing together in the group, we're healing it for ourselves personally and individually, but we are also holding the intention that as a group, because we have the power of the group and the power of the collective, we can influence the collective human heart. We can ask for and pray for and intend that whatever it is that we're processing through our own being and processing through our own heart chakra, we offer that up to the heart chakra of humanity. We offer the healing to the heart chakra of the humanity. And what happens, the theory of this, of the theory of what happens, is that through our intention of doing this, we make it easier for the individuals within the human collective of humanity to heal this theme of trauma within their own being. If they had this experience in their soul lineage, what we have done as a group and as a collective allows other individuals that are coming behind us to heal this and process this quicker and easier, because we've already lightened the load through our intention. We've already lightened the energetic load through our intention to do so within this group. So it's really fun. It's really fascinating. And the story, I want to share with you the story, right? All right. So what happened last night? So we had about 9 people on the call last night. And we asked the 9 people for volunteers who would like to hold the hot seat and have the individual record read for them. Whoever is chosen, we call in the masters, the ascended masters, we call in the record keepers. And then we choose who is going to be in the hot seat via pendulum from those who have volunteered. Yeah. And so whoever's holding the hot seat is holding the record or the keys is holding the record, the key record that has a theme that resonates with the whole group, with all of the individuals in the group. It's a common theme. And so the person is chosen to step forward and hold the hot seat. And what I do is I tune in to their record. And then each person also tunes in, but also they tune into them, the group, the reading, and also their own guidance to bring forth healing to all of their subpersonality, soul aspects, or soul fragments, right, that have this same similar theme running through them. So last night, I began the channel, and let me tell you a little bit about channeling first, right? So when my very first time that I channeled was over 10 years ago. We opened the True Light Healing Center in Kingston in 2012. And probably around 2012, 2010, 2012, I was doing a violet alchemy session for a woman, and I was guided to give her a channeled message from Mother Mary, I think it was. And so I placed my hands on her head. She was laying on the massage table. I placed my hands on her head and I waited for the channel to begin. And I sort of tuned in, waited for the channel to begin. And it started with the words, my beloved child, or dear child, something along those lines. Dear child, beloved child. And those are the words that came through, and they kind of came through my consciousness and they got stuck in my mouth. And I was like, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to call this woman that I don't even know a child, or my beloved child. I don't want to say that. And what happened on it, it was a really interesting energetic experience for me, a learning experience for me. Because what happened was, as soon as I was like, I don't want to say that, the energy stream just cut off. It was as if the energy was like, oh, all right, no problem. You don't have to say it. And it just like hung out. And so then I was standing there with my hands on this woman's head and nothing was coming through. And so finally, within my own being, I was like, oh, yay, all right, I'll say it. I'll say it. So I say it, my beloved child. And then the energy started flowing, and the communication came through, and the message, which I can't remember, it was 10 years ago. I just remember that one part. It was very potent to the individual that was receiving it at the time. But the learning experience for me was, when the channel is coming through, if you block it with your mind, you say, I don't want to say that, you block it with your personality, it just stops. It stops. So here I am last night, 10 to 12 years later, and I'm holding this group of people, and this isn't a starseed journey. This is a different group of individuals. And the woman that was chosen to hold the hot seat, she had a beautiful Zoom background of the stars in the sky and space. And it might have been, I think it was like the earth and the light coming over the earth. And it was just beautiful. So she's sitting there, and the background is all stars and the earth and the light of the stars and the aura of the earth. And anyways, so the first thing that I see in her records is a spaceship, an alien spaceship, an extraterrestrial alien spacecraft. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to say that. This must be something else. And so I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and it's just a spaceship, and I'm just seeing the spaceship, and it's coming to Earth. And I'm thinking to myself, this has to be my mind, because what I'm seeing in my mind is basically her Zoom background. I'm seeing her Zoom background with a spaceship. So I'm denying the fact that this is part of the records, and I'm trying to get to the records. I'm trying to work my way around this vision that my mind is conjuring, that I'm imagining my mind is conjuring based on her Zoom backgrounds. I'm trying to get around it, and it's not happening. Spirit is just like, no, this is it. This is it. This is it. And I'm like, it can't be it. I'm making this up. So anyways, long story short, I have to tell the group, I said, I'm really sorry. I'm having a difficult time with this one. I need to just share with you whatever is coming through my mind so that I can let it go, so more can come through. So let's not take this all very seriously. Something along those lines, right? So I shared, there's a spaceship. They're going to Earth. They are part of the original seeding of life on planet Earth. And what happens is, like, this story starts getting more and more and more elaborate about the seeding of life on Earth by these extraterrestrial nations. And my consciousness, in the beginning, it took me like 20 minutes probably to just be okay with it, to stop fighting it and just allow it to come through, because I was embarrassed a little bit. I was embarrassed to like bring through this really super far out pseudo theory kind of stuff into this group that I consider is, serious healing modality, right? But here I am talking about extraterrestrials and extraterrestrial nations seeding the earth. And so, so that's basically that's it. It was so hard. But here's the thing. I'll tell you the story. I'm going to share with you this record, the nutshell of this story, because it's kind of fun and it's fascinating. So the information that comes through this record is this. When the planet Earth evolved herself enough to be able to hold life on the planet and become a habitat for life on the planet, her soul, her essence, sent out a clarion call through all of the many universes, the multiverses, to bring the seeds of life to her planet, to her being, to her body. And approximately 60 star nations, that was the number that came up last night. I'm not saying any of this is real, by the way. I'm not saying any of this is real at all. This is just a story that came through an Akashic record, may or may not be real. I just let it go. Whatever it is, it is. So this is the story. Approximately 60 star nations came, answered the call. Of those 60 star nations, there were 3 of them that were still in separation consciousness. So of the 60, approximately 57 of them were holding a high state of unity consciousness. And their intention was to be of service to all, of service to the oneness of all. The 3 that were in separation consciousness were still in a service to self consciousness, service to self, whether it be individual self or service to their tribe, their nation, their race. So service to self versus service to all. So the woman that I read the record for, her job on this spaceship, she was the empath, and she was the diplomat, and she was the I'll think of the word, mediator. She was the mediator. I think that's the word. So she was the mediator. She was the diplomat. She was the empath. And it was her job. She was the leader of the ship. It was her job to harmonize everyone on the ship and everyone that was in cooperation of this group collective endeavor, seeding planet Earth. So what happened was it was partly her responsibility, or her actions per se, that agreed to allow these 3 star nations into the collective to collaborate with the greater collective, even though they were still in separation consciousness. They were still in service to self. So it was partially her in council with some of the other star nations that agreed to allow them into the larger collective to work together to seed planet Earth. And part of the reasoning was being in unity consciousness, they didn't feel like they could actually deny another race the opportunity to deliver their seeds, their genetic seeds, and their diversity into this planet. Okay, so it was like, again, it was more about group consciousness and inclusion, right? And so what happened was, part of the reason why they wanted to involve these other races, these other nations into the group collective, was in the hopes that by becoming part of the group collective and by being immersed in the group consciousness of these star nations that were evolved into unity consciousness, that that these ones that were still in separation consciousness would come into group consciousness, come into unity consciousness, and have a greater understanding and some healing to begin to raise their consciousness and begin to transform their consciousness to come back into the sense of oneness, well-being, and cooperation. Right. And so that was the intention, to allow them to come in. Firstly, because they didn't feel like they had a right to deny them the opportunity to seed the earth with their genetic code, but also partly because they were hoping that the influence of this greater collective would assist those that were in separation consciousness, to evolve their consciousness into a greater unity consciousness and an understanding of the oneness of all. So what happened? What happened was, one of those star nations was able to evolve and come into group consciousness and come into unity consciousness, and they were sort of on the fence. They were on that tipping point. And so the invitation to come into group consciousness and the invitation to be allowed to work with these other beings shifted them from separation consciousness into the sense of working for the common good of all, instead of working for self-service. So one of them came in, but the other two did not. And the other two created within the group, within her unit, her individual tribe, but also within the greater collective, these two began with manipulation tactics, and they used words, and they seeded distrust. They seeded dissension. They seeded greed. They seeded suspicion. And they also sabotaged some of the projects of the other star nations. And so what happened was, these star nations were realizing that their projects were being sabotaged, delayed, and they began blaming themselves. They began blaming each other. They didn't know who to blame. They didn't know who was to blame. And so the long story short of it was that the woman who I was reading the Akashic Record for, very excited. The woman that I was reading the Akashic Record for, it was her job to create harmony within her group and the rest of the group. And what happened was that so much dissension and suspicion was created that the other tribes, as well as her own group of people, began to suspect that she, as leadership, was creating the dissension, was creating the rules, was creating the limitation. And so they started to turn on her. And then what happened is that on the whole group project it became so much dissension, so much suspicion, so much sabotage, that they actually collectively as a group chose to back off, go home, regroup, rethink, recollaborate, and come back and try again. So in that experience, in that record, and in her own heart, she imagined that she failed that mission. And she imagined that she couldn't get the rest of the people to work together in harmony, and it was her fault. And so it created karmic wounds in the heart of resistance to stepping into authority, resistance to stepping into leadership positions, resistance to stepping into greater responsibility, resistance to working in group and in group consciousness and in community towards a greater good. It created resistance to energetically holding a greater audience of people, right? So energetically holding. So when I talk about that, when I am facilitating an Akashic Record group reading and there's 9 people, my energy field is holding a container for those 9 people. It's a completely sorry, I got a hair in my mouth. It's a completely different experience to hold a container for 9 people than it is to hold a container for 900 people. That's a totally different scale. So I forgot what I was going to say. Frustration created a great deal of frustration with others in regards to why can't we all get along kind of thing. And also I can't make them hear me. I can't make them listen. I can't change their ways. So this deep, deep wounding of frustration and being unable to fulfill her mission and unable to accomplish the tasks that were set out before her in regards to harmonizing the group and getting everybody on board for the common goal and the common good. And so that's the story of that Akashic record. Now, it was so hard. It's not hard for me to share that with you because I know now where the whole thing was going. I'm at the end of it and looking back at it. When I was at the beginning of it, all I saw was spaceships and extraterrestrials, and I had no idea where it was going to go. And so now that it's complete, I can share it with you. And again, I'm going to say, I'm not claiming that this story is a truth. It's just a story. It may or may not be true. I don't even care, honestly, if it's true or not. It doesn't, I choose, I think I said this before, I choose to believe that everything is a possibility, but I only choose to really care about the things that are actually of service to my life or to my work, right? And so out of that story, what is in service to my life? It doesn't matter whether or not the earth was seeded by extraterrestrials. What matters is that we discovered a core wound in regards to the heart's ability to expand and hold a greater mission, a greater audience, a greater responsibility, and the resistance to stepping into leadership and authority. And so through the record, we discovered the piece that was holding back each and every individual in the group, including myself, which was amazing to me. And I'm still chewing on that, really, because it's like this piece that I didn't even know was there for myself. But right. So it was so difficult for me to actually communicate this story when it was happening, that generally when I complete an Akashic Record reading or a Starseed journey or a ceremony, ceremonies of sovereignty, whenever I complete one of those things, generally what I'm liking to do is allow for those that are integrating the energy to sort of continue to quietly integrate the energy. And we share in the chat box. If there's people that are awake and they want to share and they have questions and they want to do so, we'll chat about it silently in the chat box so that those that are still in a deep trance can process and integrate. So, so last night, it was so challenging for me that I had to apologize to the group and just say, listen, I know that I said we were going to allow you guys to just slowly integrate and sleep and just go on your journey for the night. But I actually need your feedback for this one because it was tough for me. So I'm going to invite you, if you want to go turn it off. You don't want to listen to us, go ahead. But for anyone that wants to share, we invite you to turn on your mic so you can share. And I'm really interested to hear from the woman in the hot seat, right? So I've just delivered about 2.5 hours. It took so long because I was in that much resistance, but I've just delivered this 2.5 hour channel session. It's usually an hour and a half, 2 hours max. But it's already gone 2.5 hours because it was so hard for me to get into this space. So I'm asking now, what happened? What happened for you? And the woman shared with me that the information that came through the record wove together and confirmed for her many dreams that she has been having over the past 5 years or so that she's been journaling about. And many of the dreams that she's been journaling about have been being on ships, have being frustrated with her crew of people, not being able to get them to listen, not being able to get them to work together, she said, having to pack up children in these little pods and send them home on ships, leaving the planet. All of this stuff that she was having in countless dreams over the last 5 years that were in deep resonance with this story that I was telling her about extraterrestrial seeding of the planet. She was already having these dreams. I did not know this woman. And so for me, it was incredibly fulfilling to receive the feedback, not only from her, but others in the group that, again, confirmed the value of the information that was coming through my channel, because I was in a tremendous amount of doubt, self-doubt about the information that I was bringing through. And so to have her confirm it for me was incredible. It was an incredible gift. And so I'm sharing with you today because this is part of what is important for me, is to demystify the mystical, right? So like I said, I don't really care if the earth was seeded by aliens or not. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. What I do care about, though, is that we understand from this particular story, what the point is here is that even when we're in doubt about the information that we're delivering as a channel, it's still important for us to deliver it, because we don't know how important it is for the person on the other end to receive it, even though we might be embarrassed or shameful or shy about sharing it, right? So also, I want you to know that as you are opening to channel and as you are opening to your divine gifts, you're going to hit these parts of yourself that are in resistance to sharing the information, or to sharing the energy that's coming through, or to even opening to the next level within yourself. So as we continue to grow, as we continue to expand, as we continue to share, we come to these sort of thresholds in our journey where we're asked to push through our resistance to open to a greater expansion of our being, or a greater expansion of our gifts, or a greater expansion of the delivery of our gifts. And we don't know necessarily why we have to share crazy stories about galactic emissaries seeding the earth. But it is important, because it's important for the other person on the other end, because she has been having dreams for 5 years that she hasn't been able to talk to about. She hasn't been able to talk to anyone about. This kind of information isn't really mainstream. And I'm sure that many people have turned off this video very near the beginning, as soon as I started talking crazy, right? As soon as I started talking about aliens seeding the earth, they were gone. And that's fine. But it was important for her to hear it. It was important for her to confirm the information that she's receiving as a channel, and she's a dream channel. And it was important for her to understand the frustration that she has been continuing to feel up until now in regards to working with other people, and in regards to expanding her gifts, and in regards to awakening her spiritual gifts. So I wanted to share that with all of you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed the journey and the silly story. And I looked up, I don't know what I searched actually, but let me see here. No, Google search results. Nope, I don't have the search. Panspermia, Panspermia, Panspermia is the hypothesis which was first proposed in the 5th century BC by the Greek philosopher Anaxagoras. You try to pronounce it. I don't know. Panspermia, first proposed by the 5th century BC Greek philosopher. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe, and life is distributed by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, planetoids, as well as spacecrafts and extraterrestrial beings carrying unintended contamination by microorganisms. Basically, it is a interstellar or interplanetary seeding of life from extraterrestrial beings or bodies. Panspermia. So I didn't make it up. It actually existed in 5th century BC, which I did not know about. And so we just looked at that right before we got on call today, just kind of additionally confirm some information. Confirm like that much. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little thing. I want to let you know about a free webinar that's coming up on next Friday, which is August 5th. Next Friday, August 5th, we are having a free webinar. It's a 1-hour how to access your divine gifts. The quick route, how to access your divine gifts. We'll be sharing that with you on Friday, August 5th, and you can check the description or the comments for the link to get involved with that webinar next week. All right, we're looking forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, peace out, Star Nation. We'll see you soon. Bye.